Whoa, a little bit of a breeze, so hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. Still can't hear out of one of my ears. But it seems to be getting better. Anyway, alright, Andy video. And so I guess we're going to try to keep up the same theme here of this intelligence versus the subjective, psychology. And he's sort of conceding that, my argument is not fundamentally flawed. But that there's some sort of fork in a road somewhere where he can see that it's better to take this path than that path. And he's not really going to detail the exact nature of that fork beyond saying one road you recognize responsibility and accountability. You reason the implications of existence, and the other path you don't bother doing that because that will lead to the conclusion that you just can't do the game good enough. So he's just going to preserve the game for the sake of preserving the game is all I really hear. It's just life for the sake of life, in defense of replication for the sake of replication. And it's really just a concession to his psychological dependency on this notion, this idea, this thought that life is just too something to be turned into nothing. You can't not do it. It's just got too much stuff to it. It's too stuffy to give up on. And that's pretty much all I hear. I don't hear any other detail beyond the fact that there's just something fundamental that says you must do this. And he claims it to be more courageous. And I suppose I would say maybe it is if that courage comes with real full knowledge. Where you're really saying, I accept that the implications of this will be millions, perhaps billions of people will go through experiences that are so horrible, and their consciousness is flooded with only one thought: I wish I could die. I wish I could kill myself. I wish I could get out of being alive because it's just so bad. And they don't have the ability because they're trapped in an earthquake or some other kind of thing. And they go through this horrible experience of these just totally repulsive and horrific sensual experiences, and they have no way to get out, and they're just tortured. And so as long as you're accepting that that's the price that will be paid, that sentient organisms will continue to be suffocated and ripped apart by alligators and all kinds of, they will continue to go through these horrible, obnoxious, sensual experiences. And if there's some way you can scale that, some way you can satisfy kind of the requirement to just be able to say, yes, I can understand 1 million consciousnesses, or I can understand 1 billion consciousnesses experiencing that. I can appreciate that much horror and appropriately say that my presumption in my head, my vision in my head, that of this ambiguous notion, this undefinable perception that life is good, that it needs to be, more specifically, that it needs to be, that notion is so, it has so much integrity that it can justify that imposition. If you can do that honestly, then I'd say you're more courageous than me. Okay, but I don't think you can do that honestly. I don't think you'd have to cheat the balance somehow, and it is just psychology over reason. I was going to use words like cynical and clinical. I mean, it's a clinical way to look at life and a cynical way to look at life. But that's not quite right. I mean, it's just convenient that the words rhyme, but they really aren't related enough. But we certainly know the clinical thing works, and that there is a clinical truth. The clinical truth is not the fun truth, right? I mean, you can clinically dissect a penis, and even I get the creeps. I mean, it's creepy. If you're too clinical, life gets creepy. And but if you're not clinical, it's not really honest. So, again, I can say that the fact that I love the romantic images, that I like wallowing in the romantic delusions of aesthetics, and the sensual connections to those aesthetics, the sensations of firstness and smoothness and softness and warmth and all these nice things. That's the psychology screaming, good, good, good. It's not the philosophy or the brain or the clinical truth being honored and respected. It's being perverted and distorted by a perception created out of a far more corrupt psychology, a psychology that has been, through 4 billion years of evolution, formed to create passions that glue us to the game, that stick us to it, that attach us to it. And it is like a glue. It's a glue trap. You take a few steps into life and it starts addicting you. It starts connecting you to it and creating roots and tentacles through the glue. I mean, it's like glue and roots. It's it's really hard. The more you travel it, at least in your youth, there's a momentum of that gluing. I suppose if we're going to take that metaphor further through a life, you might run out of tentacles. You can't make any more. They break. They get brittle with time and age, and everything starts breaking down. Kind of like the Terminator in Terminator 2. The metal guy. His systems just started breaking down slowly but surely. And it's the same kind of erosion that happens to us in our attachment to life. The glue gets brittle, and our connections to life start breaking, and we're no longer very attached, and we could be very easily blown off of it with an idea of, what am I doing this for? Yeah, and the answer seems easy because there's no tentacles, there's no glue anymore. So yeah, I just don't want to get into the whole. I want to kind of cling to this notion that you're giving me this prospect, that you have this fork in the road that you've defined, and you really haven't defined it or described it beyond this vague life is good notion. And so you have to be a little more clinical than that if you're going to say what you're doing is the right thing to do and what I'm doing is the wrong thing to do. If you're going to make a distinction and say one is even more courageous than the other, I think you got to back it up with a little bit more than some vague idea that you, beyond me just accusing you of simply saying because you're glued to the trap, there's no going back. And that's all I hear, is that you don't want to go back. You don't want, and you're not brittle enough yet. You're not, you haven't been, degraded enough in your attachment to let it go. And so I'm just seeing more of a psychology screaming to maintain its addiction, to justify and rationalize an addiction, than I'm hearing anything like a rational challenge. It's oh man, God fucking damn it. Yeah, I'm really off. Ear infection doesn't help any. My balance is always kind of, on and off. Oh, this rock kicking, I've got to give this up. Oh, shit. Good news is it was a different toe that I nailed. Oh, fuck. I'm limping for a damn 3 weeks. Shit. So anyway, yeah, it's just so irritating. I'm just so sick of being physically less than my usual, not great but not horrible. Yeah. I mean, it's just, this is the deterioration part. It just makes it, it really does give you so little, it does make the attachment so thin. Oh, almost another one. See, I had a stroke 10 years ago or whatever, so my one leg is a little funky now and then. It's not really, it's just the offness is so subtle, but it's just enough for these rocks. My brain just doesn't quite calculate that height perfectly, and I just whack it. But anyway, it's not, you don't need to know all this shit. And then with this ear infection, my head feels, I'm not really dizzy, but it's like it takes away your depth perception or something. Maybe I got some bat genes or something. But yes, I sort of need my ears to see the world right. It's a little bit off without the sound, being correct. Maybe it's just the vibrations in my head are making my eyes wobble. I don't know. But it just could be because it's an ear infection. It's also distorting my vision a little because there's a little bit of a thick feeling in my eyes. But anyway, enough medical news. So yeah, it really has to be a clinical conversation, right? I mean, you can't really convey to me some sort of mystical knowledge that, the game is good. You know it because you know it. And that's not going to really work. And it's going to be really hard for you to say, well, here's the science that leads me to this conclusion, because, we know what the science points to, replicating molecule, need machines, and gladiator botting. And that's all we're really doing. We're fighting to, gain superiority that we can't hold on to in this endless, it's like a baseball season that never ends. They just keep playing the game. And they win today and they lose tomorrow, and they win today and they lose tomorrow. And, they just keep killing us off to create new ones that have to figure out the futility of it. And it's just it's almost, even a clinical view of the true facts seems insidious. I mean, even insidious is not a clinical word, but even the clinical description somehow invokes an insidiousness in terms of the way the mechanism uses our psychology to manipulate us, where we, have that youthful hunger, and, and then we're just eroded into the ground when we gain, competence to actually play the game. I mean, this is the cruel irony, is that your physical body wears out just when you get the head game to play the game at your best potential. I mean, it's it's such a tragedy that the physical skills fall apart when you've maximized the mental skills. There's just an insidiousness in how life treats us, abuses us, uses us, I guess is the term. And that's the key thing here, though, right? It is just a use. And the function is just the irrelevancy, the redundant survival machine 7,978,489 successfully reached maturation, successfully created gladiator bots, and then add whatever number so they could be half of them annihilated, and before they even got started. And so you're just doing the fork in the road could just be described in the simplest terms as you're just doing the optimist thing. I wouldn't even say there was a pessimist. Obviously, we could just say there's only two things. There's either optimist and realist, or there's pessimist and realist. Those are the two competing factors. There's not the two extremes. There's a right and the wrong. Yeah. And I'd argue I'm not a pessimist. I'm not trying to convict life of being stupid. I'm not cheating or propagandizing in making the argument. It's just the truth. And it's a truth that has nagged me my whole life. So I guess I have to be called an advocate in a sense, because I've always been on the side. But I think the side is reason and rational and truth and right. And so if you're going to say I'm wrong, I think you have to do a little better. I think you have to show me this fork in some other way in saying I'm getting rid of guilt, when we know that guilt is reasonable recognition of responsibility and accountability. You have to give me a reason that explains why that's reasonable, why responsibility and accountability are wrong things. So, I think it's been a fruitful conversation, so we'll see where it goes. Until next time. It's been, as you say, we're sharpening our swords on each other's brains, so to speak. Maybe that's all there is to it. But that's better than nothing. Anyway, till next time.